20, 25 years from now, you're going to want to say, I was there when Ken Griffey Jr. made his home debut.
Long run, Ken Griffey, will he get there? He does! What a catch by
He's the youngest player ever to hit 350 home runs. He homered in his first at-bat back at the Kingdom. He's the first player ever with 400 home runs with one team and 200 with another. And he played in 4 separate decades, from 1989 to 2010. But looking back, for Junior, it wasn't always that easy. All the accolades that he had accomplished, they were almost wiped away in an instant.
If this worked, Ken Griffey Jr., bro, you wouldn't be the guy that I love and have your damn jersey and
He
shoes
wouldn't
at my house.
be a guy at all, Channing. He'd be gone. Finally, I was like, you know what? I ain't taking this no more.
Junior's career was almost over before it ever began. Mariners baseball and Ken Griffey Jr., they're kind of synonymous at this point. I mean, Griffey literally saved baseball in Seattle. His stats are immeasurable. He is so important to this ball club, the first ever of the Mariners to make it to the Hall of Fame. A career 284, 370, 538 hitter with 630 career home runs in 22 seasons. In fact, nobody had swag quite like Ken Griffey Jr. The backwards hat, the turn ahead the clock night jerseys. Ken Griffey Jr. was the player that everybody emulated growing up. And he joined the 500 home run club on Father's Day. Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr. had a long storied career together. The two of them were inseparable on the field. But looking back, for Jr., it wasn't always that easy. Generationally known as the Kid, Griffey Jr. and Griffey Sr. had a different kind of relationship. Listen, life as a teenager is already confusing. As a 17-year-old growing up as a #1 draft pick, the son of an MLB star, the expectations were high for Jr. already. It didn't take long for Jr. to live up to those expectations, however, as in Low A Bellingham in 1987, Jr. hit .313, .445, .604 with 14 home runs, 13 stolen bags, all in 54 games. But again, as the #1 pick in the draft, as the son of a current major leaguer, and honestly kind of looked at as the savior of Mariners baseball, things weren't so easy for Jr. and the pressure started to get to him. And while the information's out there, a lot of people don't know that Ken Griffey Jr. tried to end his own life. In January of 1988, Ken Griffey Jr. swallowed 277 aspirin pills by his own count. Griffey had spent the year in Low A Bellingham, but as he came home, things just continued to get harder for him. He had a strained relationship with his father, and every time they saw each other, they fought. To Junior, it seemed like he was being yelled at when he wasn't home, and he was being yelled at even more when he was home.
Talk about your dad, and it's well publicized, the suicide attempt, 1988. And this is, what was it, your second year? Can you walk us through that? Because it seemed as if you talk about your dad glowingly, but it seemed as if back then it wasn't where it was.
No, it wasn't. It was just everything and not knowing how to maneuver. It wasn't him, it wasn't my mom, it was just a combination of this going on at 17.
It wasn't the first time that Griffey had ever contemplated ending his own life, but it was the first time that he had acted on it. Again, swallowing those 277 aspirin pills and ending up in the intensive care unit. Now this video is not only coming out on May 27th, which is the 29th anniversary of Griffey's Spider-Man catch against the wall where he ended up breaking his wrist. Pretty big moment for the Mariners that we'll get to here in a little bit. But May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, so I feel like this is an important video topic to talk about. Now Griffey's exact quote was, "It seemed like everyone was yelling at me in baseball, then I came home and everyone was yelling at me there. I got depressed, I got angry, and I didn't want to live."
But at age 17 and everybody's coming at you, you know, organization, this company, that company, you know, how do you do this, how do you do that? And that was it. And finally I was like, you know what? I ain't taking this no more.
Griffey went on to say, "Don't ever try to commit suicide. I'm living proof of how stupid that it is." After swallowing the aspirin, Griffey was rushed to the hospital by his girlfriend's mother where he had to have his stomach pumped. When Senior found out, he was, quote, scared and he was angry too. he rushed to the hospital where him and Jr. got into another argument. According to Jr., he ripped the IV out of his arm, and that stopped his dad from yelling, because leave it to Jr. to be that stubborn.
It happened, and, from that point on, I was like, you know what? That wasn't fun. That wasn't worth it. That wasn't, it's almost like, not knowing who to reach out to.
Things were tense in the Griffey household after that. Jr. went on to get his own condo to just kind of separate away from the family a little bit. But then Jr. started to come back to the house all the time, and Sr. said, "What are you doing here after I threw your butt out?" And Jr. would reply, "I just came over to talk to you."
I sat down with Mom and Dad and explained the whole thing, and they were like, okay, now let's go. We understand. Let's keep it moving.
The father and son relationship of the two evolved at that point, and in 1989, at 19 years old, Ken Griffey Jr. joined the Seattle Mariners, where he hit .264, .329, .420 with a 108 OPS plus in 127 games. The next year, in 1990, Ken Griffey Sr. came to play for the Seattle Mariners to finish up his career, to play baseball with his son. And from there spawned a lot of very famous moments, including the Griffeys hitting back-to-back home runs for the first time ever.
Back-to-back home runs. What else can these guys do?
Or Jr. cutting in front of his dad to take a ball away from him in left field.
Taking a play away from his father.
Sr. had spent 12 years of his career in Cincinnati, where he hit .303, .370, .434. He was never a big power guy like Jr. was, hitting 152 home runs in his 19-year career. He then went on to play 5 years with the New York Yankees. That led to one of Griffey's most famous quotes as a Mariner. That was because as a kid, the Yankees had discriminated against Jr. when he was on the field with his father.
I'm sitting in a dugout, and security guard comes over and says, "Hey, George doesn't want anybody in the dugout." And I was like, "What? He's my son." So he goes, "All right, hey, go in my locker." He goes, "But before you go, look at third base. It's Craig Nettle's son taking ground balls at third base."
And in 2008, when Griffey was asked about his favorite memory at the old Yankee Stadium, he said, "It's leaving Yankee Stadium." So just know that the bloodlust between Yankees fans and Mariners fans goes a lot further than just the 1995 series. Speaking of the 1995 series, who could forget that was the year that Ken Griffey Jr. broke his wrist and was possibly going to be out for the rest of the season. 1995 is one of the most storied years in all of Mariners history, mainly because of Ken Griffey Jr. In 95, Jr. played in just 72 games where he hit .258, .379, .481 with a 122 OPS plus 17 home runs, 42 RBIs. At 25 years old, Ken Griffey Jr. made one of the most amazing catches that you'll ever see from an outfielder, but unfortunately in the process broke his wrist. And again, the release of this video is the 29-year anniversary of that happening. Can you believe 29 years? We'd also like to give a big shout out to Baseballism and Elias for sending us some of this really cool merch that he sent us. The Griffey merch, your favorite player's favorite player. Of course, we have this shirt here, we have the hat, etc. Thank you guys so much for sending us this gear. Go shop Baseballism if you're not already. Jr. returned to the lineup on August 15th for the Mariners' magical ride to the postseason in 1995. And it all culminated to one of the biggest and most memorable moments in Mariners history.
And the 0-1 pitch on the way to Edgar Martinez. Swung on and line down the left field line for a base hit. Here comes Joy. Here's Jr. to third base. They're going to wave him in. The throw to the plate will be late. The Mariners are going to play for the American League Championship. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my.
After spending 10 seasons with the Seattle Mariners, Ken Griffey Jr. wanted to be closer to home, and that's when he requested a trade to the Cincinnati Reds, the former team of his father. At 30 years old, the turn of the century, Ken Griffey Jr. hit .271, .287, .556 with the Cincinnati Reds, hitting 40 home runs. His career in Cincinnati did not go nearly as well as it had in Seattle, where he suffered through countless injuries that probably stopped Ken Griffey Jr. from being the all-time home run king. In Cincinnati, in 9 years, Ken Griffey Jr. hit .270, .362, .514 with 210 home runs. But in 2008, Ken Griffey Jr. was traded from the Reds after 102 games to the Chicago White Sox, where he only played in 41 games, and honestly, a lot of people just forget that Jr. was ever a White Sox. And naturally, when did Jr. hit his first home run with the White Sox? Yeah, it was against the Mariners, because why not? With the White Sox, Jr. hit .260, .347, .405. He hit only 3 home runs with them as well in 41 games. After the 2008 season, at age 38, Jr.'s career was starting to come to an end. But he decided to make his return to the Seattle Mariners, where the Mariners had signed him, and he played in 117 games at the age of 39, hitting .214, .324, .411 with 19 home runs that year. Now it's pretty obvious that the former MVP, 13-time All-Star, 3-time Home Run Derby champion, 10-time Gold Glover, the 7-time Silver Slugger, it was pretty clear that Griffey was no longer in there. He was a bit older at 38 years old, it was the twilight of his career, but nonetheless, Ken Griffey Jr. came back to Seattle and left his mark. At the age of 40 in 2010, Ken Griffey Jr. decided to return for one final season. In 33 games, Griffey hit .184, .250, .204 with a 30 OPS plus, no homers, only 7 RBIs. And his last major league hit, because of course it was a walk-off, one that sent all the Mariners fans home happy and Griffey into the sunset.
One pitch to Jr. Swung on line to the right field for a base hit. Around third, here comes Bradley. Jr. has won the ball game. Mariners come back from the dead and score 3 runs here in the bottom of the 9th. And look at him mob Jr. all the way out there between first and second base.
A 22-year career, filled with accolades, filled with some of the best moments in baseball history, saving baseball in Seattle, building Safeco Field, Ken Griffey Jr.'s career was almost cut extremely, extremely short. Back in 1988, nobody could have known what Griffey's career would become, but we should all just be thankful that we got to see it in the first place. Jr. is one of the greatest players of all time, and we can all say that he was a Seattle Mariner.